From the player who was abandoned by his father, to another who was betrayed by his brother, to the player whose family wants to inherit from him while he is still alive. Here are the 10 footballers who hate their families. The world of football is a world of fame, wealth and triumph, but it also has a dark side, a side that leads to the greatest tragedy happening not on the pitch, but in the hearts of the players. The story of these players is a story of betrayal, despair and unhealable pain. Number 10, Emmanuel Adebayor. When it comes to family problems, no one in the football world has it harder than the former Arsenal and Man City striker. The Togolese has always been very open about the problems he had with his family. He explained that many of his relatives demanded exorbitant sums of money from him. He said that his own sister rented out a house that he had bought for her without telling him. Also, his late brother Peter had sent a letter to Real Madrid when he was on loan there in 2011, telling them not to keep him after the loan period expired. And that wasn't all. Adebayor also accused his family of dividing up his fortune among themselves while he was still alive. He said things like, "When he dies, you get this car, you get this house," and so on. The former Man City player even accused his own mother of using black magic on him and explained that this was the reason he had cut off contact with her. When asked about it, he replied, "But how can I stay in contact with my mother when she is the one who tells everyone that my career will fail?" Indeed, no one wishes for such a mother. But the next player has no problem with his mother, but rather despises his father for what he did to his family. Number 9, Virgil van Dijk. Have you ever noticed that the Liverpool central defender doesn't wear his last name on his jersey? This is usually a sign that things are not going particularly well at home, and in the case of Virgil van Dijk, things are really not going well. One of his uncles explained that the reason Van Dijk only uses Virgil, his first name, on his jerseys is a dispute with his family, more specifically with his father, Ron van Dijk. According to his uncle Steve, Ron abandoned him and his siblings when Virgil was young, leaving his mother to care for them alone. The defender could not forgive his father, and since he didn't feel particularly connected to him, he decided not to wear his name on his jersey when he's on the field. Number 8, Dele Alli. Dele also wears his first name on the back of his jersey. This is also because he doesn't feel connected to his family. The former Tottenham Hotspur midfielder was born to a Nigerian father and a British mother. His childhood was very difficult, and he blames his parents for it. He was born in Great Britain, and just 1 week after his birth, his father decided to emigrate to the USA. In his early years, he was raised exclusively by his mother. However, the problem was that she was an alcoholic. At the age of 9, he therefore moved to Nigeria to live with his father. He spent 2 years there and then returned to Great Britain to live with his mother again. However, at the age of 13, he decided to completely stop living with his family. He left his biological parents and moved in with the parents of a teammate. To this day, he calls Alan and Sally Hickford his adoptive parents, even though they never legally adopted him. After he signed with the Spurs in 2016, he decided not to use the name Ali on the back of his jersey anymore because he didn't feel connected to the family name. But at least his father didn't kill his mother for a trivial reason, as was the case with one of the players on our list, who was traumatized throughout his entire childhood, but eventually even managed to play in a Champions League final. Number 7, Paul Pogba. His family drama was never a secret. He and his brothers seem to have been united in 2018 when they all celebrated Paul's World Cup victory. But things between them turned for the worse very quickly. In 2022, it became known that Paul's older brother Matthias was involved in a criminal plot to extort up to 13 million euros from him. Matthias was charged and even taken into custody. But that wasn't all. Matthias broke his silence and accused Paul of using witchcraft to influence his teammates, especially Kylian Mbappe. I can imagine that Mbappe won't be very happy about that. But the next story is much more serious. We're going to talk about Jakub Blaszczykowski. It's a much more serious story. The Polish player's life was turned upside down when he was just 10 years old. Get ready to hear the most tragic story you've ever heard. Regarding the next player, there is also little information about his life and childhood, but today we're going to reveal a little story about his childhood that you're guaranteed to hear for the first time. So listen carefully. One of the greatest footballers in the history of Chile is undoubtedly Alexis Sanchez. Alexis was born in Chile in 1988 and grew up in poverty. When Alexis was only 4 years old, his father left the family because he didn't want to admit that he was Alexis's father. As if that weren't difficult enough, his mother also couldn't afford to take care of him all day, as she worked in a mine outside the city. Therefore, his uncle Jose adopted him, so to speak, and took care of him. Although his uncle was in a better financial situation, he simply couldn't invest in Alexis's education. Although all odds were against him, Alexis remained determined. All by himself, he managed to earn a little money by washing cars on the street. There is very little information about Alexis's youth, as it is rarely talked about. Nevertheless, his brother Humberto told some incredible stories in an interview. He received money from neighbors when he performed a show with the ball. Sometimes he was so hungry that he knocked on his neighbors' doors and asked for bread. They then gave him what was left over. In addition, Alexis sometimes boxed on the street for fun. What a story! Number 2. Memphis Depay. The former PSV striker only introduces himself by his first name. According to his story, he was abandoned by his father when he was just 4 years old, and he found it unfair to continue to bear the name of a man who had caused him so much suffering. A few years ago, the footballer's father, Dennis Depay, denied these claims. While he admitted that his marriage to Memphis's mother had failed, he insisted that he was still present in their lives. He even explained that it was he who had given Memphis his first ball.
He was therefore very angry that his son, who is now a famous footballer, publicly cut off contact with him.
We still don't know the truth, but we know that in 2012, Memphis decided not to wear his last name on his jersey anymore. He even said several times, "Don't call me Depay, call me Memphis." Now, the last player on the list has not only removed the name of his biological parents from his jersey, he has changed it completely. Number 1. Mario Balotelli. The striker was born Mario Bawa to Ghanaian parents who had moved to Italy before he was born. Balotelli had serious health problems when he was very young, and his biological parents didn't have the means to treat him. He was therefore taken away from them and placed in a foster family with Silvia and Francesco Balotelli. At first, it was planned that he would stay with the Balotellis during the week and go to his biological parents on weekends. However, something seems to have broken over time, and he began to stay with the Balotellis all the time and even adopted their last name. However, although they never officially adopted him, he had to wait until 2008 when he received Italian citizenship at the age of 18. At the 2012 Euros, he scored 2 goals against Germany in the semi-finals that took Italy to the final and dedicated both goals to his adoptive mother, Silvia. Since he became famous, Balotelli has hardly ever spoken about his biological parents. It's as if he has completely repressed this part of his life. The fall of these heroes is not just their own tragedy, it is also the tragedy of football. It reminds us that the passion we have for the game is sometimes tainted by the players' demons. It reminds us that football is a game of humans, with all their flaws and weaknesses. The legacy of these forgotten goats is an unhealable wound in the soul of football. It is a reminder that brilliance is fleeting. It is a reminder that fame is deceptive. And it is a reminder that the love for the game is the only thing that truly matters in the end. The story of Ronaldo and his son is a story of struggle against the distractions of fame, a struggle against comfort, a struggle against the expectations of the world. And in the end, it will be worth it. Ronaldo Jr. should appreciate and value this golden advice that his father gives him every day, because he has the chance to become a legend. And that is a story that never gets old. Subscribe and like for more untold stories.